Evil men.
Every morning before the cock crowed, Oga Felix was already in the market. His knife was sharp, his table was ready, and big chunks of meat covered his stall. By the time other butchers came, Oga Felix had already started selling. Hundreds of people lined up in front of him. They pushed, they argued, they even fought sometimes just to be the first to buy. His meat was different. People said this meat sweet past any other meat for market. Even women who sold food in restaurants came from far places to buy. Rich men's wives, hotel cooks, even families who had big ceremonies, weddings, birthdays, and burials all bought from him. Mama Amanda, who owned a big restaurant, once said, "Any day I cook with Oga Felix meat, my food go finish quick. Customers go rush me, beg me to cook more." Another woman said, "After my husband chopped soup, I cook with Oga Felix meat, he started to love me again. The man will always cheat before now. They treat me like queen." Everybody wondered, what was the secret of Oga Felix meat? No one had ever seen him kill a cow or goat, yet his table was always full. Whenever customers dragged and fought in line, Oga Felix would laugh and say, "Make una no wound una self. Meat go reach everybody. Meat na water." Every day he made millions. People thought it was just blessing. They thought he was lucky. But what nobody knew was this: his meat was not cow and it was not goat. It was human meat. The heads were buried in the bush, but the bodies were what Oga Felix sold. And soon the whole town would discover the terrible truth. Before Oga Felix became the most famous butcher in the market, he was just a poor young man. He had finished university, but no job came his way. Every morning, he woke up and sat outside thinking of his life. He told himself one thing again and again: "I must become a millionaire. I cannot suffer like my parents did." But months passed and still nothing happened. He grew thinner and his hope became smaller. One evening, while he sat alone, his old friend Obinna walked in. Obinna was not just a friend. They had been close since childhood. "Felix, how far? You the like person where life don't beat tire," Obinna said. "Omo, I don't tire for this life," Felix replied. "No work, no money, no hope. How I go survive? I swear, I must make money, even if the last thing I do." Obinna looked around, then leaned close. "My guy, I get update. If we do arm together, we go become millionaires fast. Felix raised his eyebrow. "Update? Wetin be that?" Obinna whispered. "We go sell human meat." Felix jumped. "What? Human meat? I beg no talk that kind thing." But Obinna smiled. "Calm down. Listen, every night when people bury fresh bodies, me and my boys go dig am out. We go carry the meat, give you by 4 a.m. You go sell AM for market. Nobody go know. Customers go rush you because the meat they sweet past cow or goat. At the end of the day, we go share the money." At first, Felix wanted to refuse. He shook his head and said, "This wicked oak." But then he remembered his empty pockets. He remembered how he wanted to be rich. Slowly, he smiled. "Obinna, you be plan master. We go do am." The two of them laughed and shook hands. "Now we go rock this town," Obinna said. That was the night Oga Felix sold his soul for money. And from that moment, the evil business began. The next morning, before the cock crowed, Obinna and his boys carried a sack to Oga Felix's house. They dropped it in front of him. The sack was heavy. Felix's hand shook as he opened it. Inside was the cold body of a man who had just been buried the night before. "Here is your first supply," Obinna whispered. "Cut am well, nobody go know." Felix's heart beat fast. His knife touched the skin, and for a moment he wanted to stop. But then he remembered the money. He cut the flesh into neat chunks and arranged them on his table. By morning, the market was full. "Ah, Felix, your meat they shine today, oh!" one customer shouted. Another woman rushed forward. "Please, give me 2 kilos before it finish." Soon, a long line formed, just like magic. People pushed, shouted, even fought. Some said, This meat dey sweet past any other one in this market. Others said, I no go buy from any other butcher again. Now Felix get the real meat. By the end of the day, Felix's table was empty. He counted bundles of money and laughed. Obinna came later and the two of them shared it. Days turned to weeks and weeks to months. Oga Felix's fame spread everywhere. Mama Amanda's restaurant became the talk of the town. Anytime she cooked with Felix's meat, people filled her shop until no chair remained. One woman testified, since my husband ate Felix's meat in soup, he changed. He no cheat again. He now treats me like queen. But something strange started happening. Quietly, people began to die. A man would eat food and fall sick the next day. Another woman would collapse after eating pepper soup. Families started burying their loved ones too often. But the market did not stop. Customers still lined up at Felix's stall. To them, his meat was the sweetest blessing. What they did not know was that it was a curse. The town grew restless. Every week, new graves opened in the cemetery. Old men, young boys, even healthy women were dying. And people started whispering, why are people they die like this when they happen for this town? Still, nobody suspected Oga Felix. In fact, his business only grew bigger. Every day, more customers joined the line at his stall. He was the first to arrive and the last to leave. His pocket was always heavy with money. Mama Amanda was making more money too. One Sunday, a rich man and his friends came to her restaurant. They ordered cowhead pepper soup. She proudly told them, "Na Felix meat I used today." They ate and praised her. "This pepper soup na the best way we don't ever taste." But that same evening, the rich man fell down in his house. He clutched his stomach, shouted in pain, and died before his family could help. The whole town cried. His burial was fixed quickly. At the same time, more families were complaining. Husbands were dying after eating soup. Children fell sick after eating stew. Wives fainted after chewing meat. But because nobody linked it to Felix, they kept buying from him. Felix and Obinna were getting richer and bolder. Obinna even told his boys, "Every burial for this town na our blessing. Once them bury body, we go dig arm out. Felix go turn arm to money." One night, Felix counted his money and laughed. "Obinna, we don't blow. Nothing fit stop us. Meat now water, and everybody they drink from arm." But deep inside the town, some people were beginning to suspect. A pastor said during church, "There is evil in this land. Something is wrong with what we are eating." The congregation shouted, "Amen!" But nobody knew what he meant. The truth was getting closer. And soon, Oga Felix's secrets would be exposed. One evening, a woman cooked a big pot of soup with meat she bought from Oga Felix. Her husband came home tired and hungry. He sat down, ate the food, and licked his fingers. "This meat sweet well, he said, smiling at his wife. But not long after, his smile turned into groans. He held his stomach, rolled on the floor, and before the woman could shout for help, the man was gone, dead. The neighbors rushed in when they heard her cries. "What happened?" they asked. Through tears, the woman explained, "I only cooked soup. I no poisoned my husband. I swear, I no fit harm him." But suspicion fell on her. People shouted, "She killed her husband. Arrest her." The police carried her away that same night. In the station, she cried bitterly, "I did not kill him. I only cooked meat soup. The only thing I know is that I bought the meat from Oga Felix." The police wrote it down but did not believe her. To them, it sounded too simple. How could meat kill a man? Meanwhile, in the market, Felix was busy selling. Customers still fought to get his meat. He smiled and said his usual line, "Make una no wound una self. Meat go reach everybody. Meat na water." Obinna later came to collect his share of the money. He laughed when Felix told him about the dead husband. My guy, forget that one. People, they die every day, na normal thing. But in the town, whispers started spreading. Why so many people they die after eating meat? Some asked, could something be wrong with Felix meat? Others quickly defended him. No, Felix not the best butcher. His meat they make food sweet. Now why would they rush him every day? But the seed of suspicion had been planted. The town was watching Oga Felix more closely now. The town was already troubled by many sudden deaths, but things became worse when a very wealthy man came to Mama Amanda's restaurant. He arrived with his friends on a Saturday evening and ordered a big pot of proper soup. Make it special, he told her. Mama Amanda smiled with pride. She had just bought meat from Felix that morning. She cooked carefully, added spices, and served the steaming pepper soup. The rich man and his friends enjoyed it so much that they laughed loudly and praised her cooking. This is the sweetest pepper soup I have ever eaten, the rich man said, clapping his hands. But later that night, while his family was still celebrating, he suddenly collapsed. His servants rushed to help him, but within minutes, the man was dead. The whole town was in shock. Bells rang and people cried in the streets. The death of an ordinary man was painful, but the death of a rich and powerful man shook everyone to the core. The police came to investigate. They questioned Mama Amanda. With tears in her eyes, she explained, I only cooked with meat I bought from Felix. I did nothing wrong. The police searched her restaurant, but found nothing unusual. Finally, they released her, but the case was not closed. That same night, Obinna and his men were waiting near the cemetery. They knew the rich man would be buried quickly. At 5 a.m., they began digging. Their spades hit the fresh coffin. But before they could lift the body, flashlights surrounded them. It was the town security team. Stop where you are, they shouted. Obinna and his men tried to run, but there was no escape. They were arrested on the spot. The people of the town would soon hear the darkest truth they had ever known. At dawn, the whole town gathered in the square. The news had already spread. Obinna and his men were caught digging a grave. People filled the place, whispering and wondering what was going on. The town security brought Obinna and the others in chains. Their clothes were dirty, their faces covered with sweat and fear. The leader of the security shouted, these men were caught stealing a body from the grave of our rich man. Let them speak the truth today. At first, Obinna kept his head low. But when the crowd roared, demanding answers, he broke down. Yes, it is true, he cried. We have been digging graves. We take the bodies to Felix. He cuts them into pieces and sells the flesh as meat in the market. The people gasped. Mothers screamed. Some fell to the ground. One man shouted, are you saying we have been eating human meat all this time? Obinna nodded. Yes, that is why his meat is always sweet. That is why customers rush to him every morning. All of it came from the dead. The crowd exploded in anger and sorrow. Some cried loudly, remembering the meals they had enjoyed. Others covered their mouths, feeling sick. Mama Amanda fainted when she heard it. She thought of all the food she had sold, all the plates she had served with Felix's meat. Her tears could not stop. The security chief then ordered, go and arrest Felix immediately. At that very moment, Felix was in the market as usual, selling meat with a smile. He had no idea his secret had been revealed. Customers were already buying when the police marched in and grabbed him. Felix, you are under arrest, they shouted. The market froze in silence. People stared in shock. Felix's face turned pale. His empire of meats had finally collapsed. The market was crowded when the police pushed their way through. Felix stood behind his stall, smiling as he sharpened his knife. He was cutting meat into neat pieces, telling his usual joke, don't fight, there is enough meat for everyone. But suddenly, strong hands grabbed him. The knife fell from his fingers. Felix, you are under arrest, the officer shouted. The customers gasped. Some dropped the meat they were holding. Others stepped back in fear. For what? Felix asked, his voice shaking. I have done nothing wrong. I only sell meat to feed the town. The officer glared at him. Do not lie. Your friend Obinna has confessed. We know the truth. This meat is not from cows or goats. It is human flesh. The whole market erupted. Women screamed, some tearing their wrappers in shock. Men shouted angrily. Children cried, clinging to their mothers. No, tell us it's a lie. One old woman begged, but Felix's face gave him away. His lips trembled, his knees shook. Finally, he fell to the ground, covering his face with his hands. Yes, it is true, he whispered. I did it. I wanted to be rich. I thought no one would ever find out. The crowd roared in anger. You made us eat our own brothers and sisters. You turned our joy into a curse. People threw stones, but the officers shielded Felix and dragged him away. All the customers who had trusted him now looked at him with disgust. Mama Amanda fell to her knees crying, Oh God, I have been feeding the people with death. Forgive me. Felix was taken to the town square, where Obinna and his men were already standing in chains. The whole town gathered again, not with curiosity this time, but with burning anger and deep sorrow. It was time for judgment. The town square was filled with people. Men, women, and children stood shoulder to shoulder. Nobody wanted to miss what would happen to Felix and Obinna. Some carried sticks, others carried stones. The air was heavy with anger and sorrow. Felix and Obinna were dragged to the center in chains. Their faces were pale, their heads bowed. The town leader stood on a raised platform and lifted his hand. The crowd became silent. People of this land, the leader said with a heavy voice, today we face a great evil. For many months, our brothers and sisters have been dying. We have buried too many, and now we know the truth. These men have been selling human flesh as meat. The people cried out in pain. Some shouted, shame! Others cried, we will never forgive this wickedness. The leader turned to Felix. Do you confess? Felix's voice was weak. Yeah, it is true. I was desperate. I wanted to be rich. Obinna brought the idea. I followed him. But I regret it now. Please forgive me. The crowd roared. Forgive? After we have eaten our own blood, after our families have died? The leader's face was stern. And you, Obinna? Obinna lifted his head. His eyes were hard. Yes, I confess. I was the one who stole the bodies. I thought it was clever. I thought nobody would know, but I was wrong. The people shouted louder. Justice, justice. The leader raised his hand again. For the evil you have done, for the tears you have caused, this town sentences you to life in prison. You will never again touch freedom. You will never again harm this land. The guards pulled Felix and Obinna away. The crowd followed, some still weeping, others cursing their names. In that moment, the town understood how greed can destroy a man and how evil can hide behind a smiling face. Felix and Obinna were thrown into prison, far from the town they had once fooled. The iron gates slammed shut, and the people cheered with relief. No more would their loved ones be dug up. No more would they eat food that carried death. In prison, Felix sat in silence. He thought about the smiling faces of his customers, the children who begged their mothers for his meat, and the women who praised him for making their food taste sweet. Now he saw those faces differently. He saw them filled with pain, betrayal, and anger. His heart grew heavy. He wished he had never listened to Obinna. Obinna, on the other hand, was not sorry. He paced around his prison cell and muttered, we could have ruled this town. We could have been kings. But the bars around him reminded him that his plan had failed and his greed had destroyed them both. Back in the town, people slowly began to heal. Mama Amanda closed her restaurant for many weeks. She prayed every day for forgiveness, even though she did not know the truth at first. Other families cried for the ones they lost but were relieved that the evil had been stopped. The pastor stood before the congregation one Sunday and said, let us remember this. Greed is a dangerous path. It makes men blind. Felix wanted riches and Obinna wanted power, but they ended in shame. Let us be content with honest work, for stolen bread will always turn to ashes. The people shouted, "Amen," and nodded with tears in their eyes. From that day, the story of Oga Felix was told again and again, especially to children. It was told as a warning that no matter how sweet evil may look, it always ends in sorrow. And so the town moved on, wiser than before, with one lesson written deep in every heart: greed can destroy, honesty will save. Thanks for watching. If you love this story, kindly don't forget to subscribe, like and share for more interesting tales like this. And also drop your comments on the comment box. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.